Station, KHTS. Carl Goldman with you. This special 1 hour with our friends from the City of Hope on this gorgeous Wednesday. The trees are beginning to open up. We're watching the buds come. Spring has sprung here in Santa Clarita. And, we were just talking about this before we started the show. We've got the KHTS Home and Garden Show is going to take place April 28th and 29th at Central Park.
Yes.
Our 9th year already, and City of Hope is going to have a large presence over there.
Absolutely. We are so excited for that too.
We really are looking forward to that. So with me in the studio we have Dr. Chu, and of course Amanda, you always are here.
I am always
you are
here.
like the fixture of the City of Hope, which is so good.
Absolutely.
And Amanda, you head up a lot of the community relations for City of Hope, but you're perched not just in Santa Clarita, but you cover some other areas, but your main focus is here in Santa Clarita. Why don't you share just briefly what the City of Hope is doing here specifically in Santa Clarita?
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that don't know, City of Hope is a comprehensive cancer care center. We have our main campus where the research happens in Duarte. However, we have extended ourselves to the communities to be able to offer that same level of care so that people don't have to drive as far when they're diagnosed with cancer. Specifically in Santa Clarita, we have breast oncology and surgery. We have medical oncology, gynecologic oncology, urologic oncology, general urology as well, which not too many people know about, and general surgery as well. We have connections to clinical trials. Our doctors are privileged at the local hospitals like Henry Mayo and Providence Holy Cross, just to be able to have that access to care locally when you're going through such a disease.
And if you're a woman listening right now, you're going to want to stick around because we are going to be focusing on breast cancer today, and more importantly, some of the things on the horizon for breast cancer, not just talking about prevention and what you're doing now, but what some of the positive things that are certainly out there in the future. And actually, if you're a guy, you probably know a woman, and so you're going to want to listen in
Absolutely.
on it. But also, let me ask you, and we'll introduce you in a second, Dr. Chu, but I've got a quick question.
Yes.
Can guys get breast cancer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is much more rare in men. About less than 5% of cases annually are diagnosed in men. But it can happen. It tends to be missed in the early stages because there is no specific screening test for them or imaging test initially. And they can be mistaken for some of the benign changes that can occur. But absolutely, it's something that men should be aware of just as much as women.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you just woke me up with that. So specifically, what should I be looking for in terms of an early sign for breast cancer in a male?
In men, typically it will present as a lump that you can feel under the breast, typically under the nipple. It's usually a very firm, hard mass, unlike just sort of what we call gynecomastia, which is just sort of a little bit of enlargement of the breast tissue that can happen with alcohol use, age, etc. That's usually soft. But a cancer is usually very hard, like a rock. So if you feel something that feels really firm under there, especially if you can't really move it around too much, it doesn't really roll under the finger, so to speak. Those are some warning signs that I would definitely urge you to get looked at right away. It doesn't always mean cancer. I don't want to scare everybody who has a little something in their breast, but certainly those would be signs that I would find, worrisome enough that they really should get tested
don't
and look
ignore
at.
that.
Exactly.
Good. That's incredible. I learned something, and we've only a couple minutes into this hour. It's pretty amazing. So Dr. Chu, you are one of the doctors with City of Hope here in Santa Clarita, and you specialize in breast oncology.
Absolutely.
To give us a brief background on your own path up to becoming a specialist.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I'm a California girl all the way. Went to college at Berkeley and decided that I really wanted to be in medicine, both in terms of the science as well as in the clinical treatment of it. So I did some research work in immunology and as well as medical school, but realized that I like being with patients more than I like being in the lab playing with mice. And so I went back to doing clinical work and and realized that surgery is really where my heart is, because it allows me to do both physical, challenging things with my hands as well as engage me mentally. So I trained in general surgery at UC San Diego. And after that, I practiced as a general surgeon for a number of years in a private practice, and saw a wide variety of surgical problems, including breast cancer. And during that time was when I realized that sometimes it can be very challenging for a woman or men to really talk to their doctors about their concerns with regards to breast cancer and breast diseases in general. And oftentimes that leads to delayed diagnosis. And so it really piqued my interest in terms of being able to reach out to everyone to get them tested and looked and evaluated sooner. And it also fit in with my own personal interest in cancer as well. That's what I did my research in, is using the immune system to help fight cancer. So it all just kind of rolled together. And I dedicated my practice to just treating breast diseases about 5 years ago, and have been doing that ever since.
My mom had breast cancer back in the 60s.
Wow.
Had surgery and recovered from it. And back then in the 60s, that was rare
Yes.
to recover from
Yes.
it, having had it that long. And I'm sure she passed away when she was in her late 60s, turning to be 70. So but that she lived another 30 years
That's pretty terrific.
prior to having
Yes.
after having the surgery. So that's rare.
Yes.
Cancer, the surgeries and prevention and stepping in after you discover that you have cancer has come a long way since then. First of all, what's the recovery
Absolutely.
rate now?
Well, these days, the majority of patients are going to be diagnosed in early stage breast cancer, and the survival rates are getting better and better every year. In fact, if you have stage 1 breast cancer, the cure rate is greater than 90%. And
Wow.
that really,
So stage one cure
1.
rate 90%,
Or better,
which is
yes.
why screenings are so
absolutely,
important.
absolutely. I mean, the cure rates do start dropping, obviously, once once you have more advanced disease. But even with fairly advanced breast cancer these days, we've had such great success. Even stage 3, which is locally advanced, meaning you have the disease in the breast and primarily in the lymph nodes in the area. Even with that advanced disease, the cure rate is still greater than 70%, which is still higher than most other cancers you're going to deal with. So it's certainly the earlier the better. But even with advanced disease now, we have better treatments for. So the
With the
majority of women will survive their cancer.
That's great news. With the advanced stages, like stage 3,
Yes.
does that most likely mean the breasts are going to get removed?
Not always. That's kind of a misconception that to get the best cure rate, that you have to have a mastectomy where the entire breast is removed. That's not the case at all in the vast majority of patients that I see. In fact, we have developed some techniques that allow us to really preserve the breast, not just in terms of its overall size, but the contour, so that there's really minimal cosmetic difference after just removing part of the breast that contains the cancer. So we can do that now with much greater success, and also get the same exact cure rate potentially as a mastectomy. So you certainly don't have to make a decision for that. Now, there are still reasons that a mastectomy might be the best option for an individual patient, but it is by no means the default option anymore. And even in advanced cases where at first glance you might say, boy, that's a lot of cancer and I don't know if we can save the breast. Well, we have options where we can treat patients with medicine first, shrink the cancer, and then be able to preserve the breast if that's something that the patient is interested in. So there's just so many options now as far as treatment is concerned. It is by no means a one-size-fits-all.
Right, and that certainly wasn't around the 1960s. I remember in
Yes.
this was the early
you're
60s for my
absolutely
mom,
right.
and even then you couldn't even say the word cancer
Yes.
back then. It was a whole different psychology. So forget about prevention or
Yeah.
any of that.
Yes.
Cancer was a dirty word.
I agree. And it's such a shame because I think a lot of people suffered because of that, both in terms of the fear on top of the sort of stigma attached to it, which is really a shame. And I'm so happy that despite the fact that it seems like cancer is happening every day and to everybody, which is not really true. But the fact is we hear about it more. I think that's what's really the most important thing is people talk about it, people share their experiences. There's no longer a taboo around it. And I think that's allowed us to be able to offer patients more options because now they're willing to speak up and say, hey, I don't want this. Is there something else that could work for me? And I think that's great for patients. And I would encourage everyone to do that.
KHTS, your hometown station, AM 1220 and FM 98.1. We're streaming on the web, hometownstation.com. Of course, you can also pick us up via Facebook on the KHTS KHTS Radio Facebook page and on your phone apps. So there's no way to avoid us. You've got us in every possible place.
That now.
Wonderful way.
And us right now, it's Carl Goldman here on KHTS, along with our doctor from City of Hope, and we've got Dr. Chu with us. Amanda, also from City of Hope, is with us talking about breast cancer. And at the beginning of the show, we were talking, and we're going to come, so stick around because we're going to come to the breast cancer prevention and surgeries and all the exciting things on the horizon in the future with cancer. But right now, we mentioned things to look for men, and men don't go through breast cancer screenings. Women do. So let's start on a 101 primer on breast cancer screenings and what women should look out for. How often should a woman get screened?
Now, it's a great question because the standards keep changing and the recommendations keep changing. And it changes not because the cancer is any different. It's just lots of different factors that go into what is the best way to screen for cancer. Right now, the most up-to-date recommendation is that any woman after the age of 50 really should have an annual mammogram. Between 40 and 50, depending on your personal risk factor, you could go every other year. But that really needs to be assessed between you and your doctor so that you determine what your actual risk is. Younger than 40, we don't recommend routine mammogram just because the technology really doesn't add anything as far as finding early cancers. The breast just is just too dense and too young for that. But that's just the routine imaging. Certainly any time that you feel a lump in your breast, don't panic. It's what I always tell my patients. The vast majority are not going to be cancer. It's much more common to get non-cancerous growths and lumps in the breast. But you can't always tell that based on a physical exam. It really needs to be evaluated by a professional. So again, see your doctor, have them do the appropriate test to make sure that it's not anything serious.
And are some of the lumps that come in that just pop up for a while and then disappear, so that would not be something that's cancerous?
They can, yeah.
So the question would be, the second you feel a lump, obviously the yellow alarm should be flowing, and you should keep an eye on it. How long should you wait before going to the doctor and having a good look?
Well, I think, if you're younger than 40, where the risk of a cancer is fairly low, I think you can go a month or two and see if it goes away. Because oftentimes you're absolutely right. It's a hormonal change in the breast, and it may just disappear. But anything that persists beyond a couple of months or actually shows signs of getting larger or other changes physically, then that should not wait at all. I would say any woman older than 50 who develops a lump in their breast should have that looked at immediately. I wouldn't wait at all. Even if most of them turn out to be benign, your risk does start to go up after age 50, and it just isn't worth it to wait.
Right, particularly when you're talking about success rates of over 90-95% in stage 1. So that would be important.
Exactly.
What are some other signs, other than the lump in the breast, are there other signs women should be looking for?
Yes. One of the things that can really help us figure out if there's a problem is looking at the breasts in a mirror. This is part of the self-exam that I teach patients. If you just stand in front of a mirror, with your kind of chest up and straight out, look and see if you notice any changes in the contour of the breast. In other words, are there any areas that look like the skin is being pulled in, like a little dimple? Are there areas of the breast that the skin feels tougher, where the skin itself feels stiffer, firmer, tougher? Does the skin look different? Where it looks like what we call an orange peel skin. So if you look at the orange peel, it kind of has those little dots all over it that's very prominent. Most of the time, those pores shouldn't be very prominent, but if you have a part of the breast that looks like that, that could be a sign that there's an issue. Redness on the skin that doesn't go away, that persists. Any kind of rash or flakes or little alligator scales is what I call them, that develop either on the nipple itself or on the skin of the breast. Those would be things that definitely you should have looked at sooner rather than later.
Amanda, here in Santa Clarita, we're talking about the City of Hope keeps expanding their footprint here in Santa Clarita, which is wonderful. What services do you have for someone who thinks they might have breast cancer? What's the first step in coming over here, and how much of it can be done here in Santa Clarita as opposed to having to travel elsewhere?
Yeah. So for treatment-wise, I will leave that answer up to Dr. Chu. However, a patient can call our local phone number, 661-799-1999, to get connected to Santa Clarita physicians. We have medical oncologists that they can consult with, or surgical oncology like Dr. Chu, specifically for breast cancer. Those are probably the top two that they would get connected with. The nice thing, though, about the Santa Clarita facility is that physician office where the physicians are, it's a collective area. It's a whole care team. They all work together. So even if you're going to a medical oncologist consult first, they can still consult with Dr. Chu and talk about a specific case. So it's nice that that whole comprehensive care team is all there and working together. I think that's the biggest benefit.
And that office is over on Valencia Boulevard,
yes.
right?
Right across from City Hall.
Right over there.
Yes.
So can they also get screenings done at that facility, or do they go somewhere else in Santa Clarita?
Most people are with their primary care doctor first, and if they go and get a screening there and notice an abnormality, that's the point when they'll
When
start
they're coming over to see you. Got it.
Yeah, we don't actually have a radiology department in our office. We rely very heavily on the local radiology facilities, and we've got some great ones in Santa Clarita. I mean, Henry Mayo has a great dedicated breast imaging facility. Sheila Vilos, some of the other medical facilities also have their own internal breast imaging facilities. So there really isn't a need necessarily for us to bring our own radiologists into the community. We've got plenty of great radiologists to do that. So most of the time, patients are going to be most likely talking to their regular doctor or their gynecologist if they have a concern, and I would encourage them to start there, because sometimes these things, a lot of these changes are benign, and they may be able to be sort of dismissed, so to speak, or monitored. I shouldn't say dismissed, monitored by their regular doctors, because it is going to be most likely benign. But that would be with the appropriate imaging that can be arranged. Should there be any concern, whether on imaging or physical exam or even history, I also do high-risk screening, just patients who may have a family history that they want to have a little bit more intense screening. Then they can see me.
What is screening?
High-risk screening. High-risk.
High-risk
High-risk screening. I spoke a little too fast there. So I have patients who don't have breast cancer now, but have a family history or have a documented genetic mutation that makes them at higher risk of developing breast cancer, and they can certainly follow up with me, and we do a little bit more intense screening as a result of that. So there's different ways to sort of get access to my services, even if you don't have cancer. Obviously, the majority of patients that I see are for treatment of their actual cancers, since we are a primarily cancer treatment facility. But we do offer some additional services to patients in the Santa Clarita area if they need it.
So they're coming in, they're seeing you, they're going through what all the options are, and we can talk about some of those after the break. And then if they do need surgery, where would they be doing the surgery if you're the one doing the surgery?
Right here in Santa Clarita, Henry Mayo. I do a lot of surgeries there, especially patients in this area. They have a great facility. We work very closely with them, and we're happy to do that. I'm also have privileges at Mission Hills with Providence, because I do go down there, the Holy Cross down there, because I also go to our office down there. As we mentioned, we do have a center down there as well. So I personally do operate mostly in this area. I take very few patients patients to Duarte, our main campus, because there's no need to. The majority of services that I perform, I can perform them right here with the help of our local facilities. There are times when a patient might need to go to Duarte, either because of a specialty service that's not offered here, or insurance issues. Every once in a while, we run into one of those. But by and large, the vast majority of my patients stay right here.
Right, and there were two great facilities with both Henry Mayo and Holy Cross.
Yes.
KHTS Radio, it is our special 1 hour with City of Hope, learning right now through Dr. Chu all about breast cancer. And we're going to be taking a short break, finding out about the future of breast cancer prevention, and then more importantly, what's on the horizon for potential cures. So you're going to want to stick around as we take a short break. Be right back on your hometown station.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
There are many memorable restaurants in Santa Clarita, but 3 words stand out from the crowd. Mom can cook.
Mamá puede cocinar.
Mom can cook, the best Thai food on this side of the planet.
Mama fait la cuisine.
No matter what language you use, Mom Can Cook says it all. Thai food at its finest, all your favorite dishes and Mom's very own original specialties. Experience it on Soledad by the Canyon Country Post Office.
Mama 요리가 좋으세요?
Mom Can Cook.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty, and I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
And I can change the world. I'll be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something.
KHTS, your hometown station. Carl Goldman with you. We are streaming live on the internet, hometownstation.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Smile, YouTube. We're on Facebook Live right now, and that is at KHTS Radio. Our phone app, KHTS AM, you can download for either your iPhone or for your Droid, and hear us from all over not just the Southern California area, but all over the world. This is the City of Hope Hour. We're talking with Dr. Chu. Amanda also is here in the studio from the City of Hope, learning about the latest in breast cancer. And specifically, I've already learned a few things. Number one, guys, you've got a 5% chance of getting it, so don't ignore it. If you're feeling a lump or something weird going on in your breast, it needs to get checked out. Women,
Absolutely.
We've learned about screenings being very, very important once you hit that age of 40. And now I'd really like to talk about, there's so much on the rise. And
Yes.
before we started the show today, I had heard a report last week that's exciting about a potential cancer vaccine. I'm not sure if it deals with just breast cancer, what cancer specifically, we have to look it up, but they've been testing it on mice with now a 95% success rate. So now they're applying to be able to start testing it as they go up the food chain here onto
Yes.
higher ups. But you mentioned doctor, also before that there already is
Yes.
a bit of a cancer vaccine.
There is, and that's the one against the papillomavirus, the human papillomavirus. We know that the human papillomavirus can contribute to a number of cancers, cervical in women, and as well as other types of cancers in men, and also in other locations. And we've actually developed a vaccine that is very effective at preventing papilloma virus infection to begin in the body. The issue, though, is it has to be given before you're exposed to the virus. And the virus itself is all over the place. It is very, very common. Most carriers may not even be aware that they're carrying it. And most adults, by the time you're an adult, are carriers, whether you're aware of it or not. And you can be completely asymptomatic. You have no symptoms. And you just basically pass it along. Most of the
how
time,
do you pass it along?
most of the time, it is passed along as a sexually transmitted fashion, although there are other ways of getting it. But that's the primary way, and I think that's where some of the sort of stigma comes with this vaccine, is that there's a misconception that it somehow would encourage sexual activity in kids, because this vaccine needs to be given in children. When I say children, I don't mean young children. We're talking about teenagers and preteens to teenagers. And the reason is, again, it has to be given before you're exposed to the virus. If you're exposed to the virus and you get the vaccine, it's not effective. And so you have to give it before the child, so to speak, becomes sexually active or is exposed to it at whatever age that they decided that's the right thing for them. But
And
that's
I guess the concept's similar. If you have the measles, getting a
Exactly.
vaccine for the measles is not going to get rid of the measles.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And so it's something that obviously parents have to decide for themselves and for their children what is the best course. And I certainly wouldn't take that away from parents. But I really hope that misconception about this particular vaccine gets dissipated quickly, and parents make that decision for their children, because it really is a lifesaver potentially for them.
So someone listening right now, if you hit Google, you're going to get all kinds
Yes.
of misinformation. It's going to you'll have the entire spectrum.
Yes.
Where would you recommend someone listening right now, where should they Google, where should they go to
Sure.
get the information that's going to give them a good analysis of this?
I think if you go to any website that is sponsored by a reputable medical facility like City of Hope, UCLA, any major academic center, that's going to give you the best information and the most accurate information, because this information that's proven, that it's not rocket science, so to speak, that bad information gets out a lot easier than good information. But if you go to those sites, that's the accurate information you should be looking at. Everyone else you have to take with a grain of salt. If you want the real science and you're a science buff and you want the nitty-gritty, then the National Cancer Institute has a website, and they have information about all cancers. And that's a great site too. It can get a little dry, but if you want the real science, that's where it's at. But any reputable medical facility is going to have the best information, and it's unbiased information.
Yeah, when you're dealing with breast cancer or any kind
Any
of cancer, you
cancers,
don't
yes.
want to go to Yelp for reviews.
Well, you might go if you're into that about a particular, how friendly is your doctor, I suppose. But for the actual treatment options, I really strongly recommend that you go with a reputable place. Places that are going to be unbiased, and they're presenting information to you to give you information, not just to sell you something.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
there's so much misinformation, particularly on the medical side on the internet.
Exactly.
So a good place to start would actually be cityofhope.org.
Well, we do, yeah. A
And,
little plug for our
yeah, a little plug
website.
for your website. But you do have a very informative website, and then obviously from there
We try.
we can check
Yeah.
out lots of other websites as well.
Absolutely.
Specifically with breast cancer now,
Yes.
as we fast forward, and we mentioned earlier how my mom had breast cancer back in the 60s, and we've come such a long way in those 50
Yes.
plus years. Right now, what's on the horizon in terms of research and potential cures for breast cancer?
There's there's exciting things on every front. I'll just bring a couple I think that are particularly exciting and relevant. One is we're looking at now targeting the immune system to actually use your own immune system to help target cancer cells and fight cancer cells. It eliminates a lot of side effects that we think of with traditional chemotherapies because it is specifically targeting the specific cancers that we're interested in. It's already a proven therapy that have helped a lot of patients in lung cancer. It's being tested now for breast, and I'm really excited at the possibility that this can be now further added to our arsenal for breast cancer as well. I don't think that's going to take too long to know if that's going to be part of our treatment.
And how do they
I'm
do
very
that?
excited about that.
How do they target the immune system?
So we have, in the last, 15, 20 years, it really hasn't even been that long, we've really started to open up all the mysteries about how our immune system operates in the body, how the different components work together, how they identify something that's abnormal in the body versus normal. Because you don't want the immune system attacking your own body for no reason. You really want to make sure that it's doing it because there's a problem. So we're starting now just at the tip of the iceberg as far as understanding that process and being able to identify the steps and find medications that will allow us to manipulate the immune system in such a way that we can now encourage it to recognize cancer cells as being bad and foreign and attack them in a way that we want, so that it's instead of sort of shooting a big shotgun at it, we're now able to really pinpoint, and it's also almost with laser-like focus, and that is really exciting because it again helps to eliminate a lot of the side effects that traditional chemotherapy, because it was a more shotgun approach, can damage other cells as well, normal cells as well. So it's really understanding how the immune system works that we've been able to now find the steps where we can intervene and direct it in a way that we want, towards eliminating bad cells like cancer cells. So we've already got a treatment, like I said, that's effective for lung cancer. And we're now in studies looking at how well it can maybe help with other cancers like breast. So those studies are ongoing, and we're hoping that we'll have some results from those soon that we can use as part of our treatment plan.
And City of Hope is on the cusp of a lot of these studies.
Absolutely.
Over in your Duarte campus.
Absolutely. In fact, we pioneered some of these some of these therapies in the treatment for lymphomas and leukemias, and that are now, again, being used. Similar techniques and similar treatments are being used for other solid cancers. So we're very excited and very proud to be a part of that effort.
And what are some of the other potential cures on the horizon?
So cancer vaccines is always something that's sort of the fantasy and the hope that we hope that to accomplish, because wouldn't it be great to be able to prevent the cancer in the first place, so you never have any problems from it at all. The challenge has been that every cancer is unique. So breast is different from colon, it's different from prostate, different from lung. And in individual patients, your cancer is unique. As much as we like to think of breast cancer as this big, monolithic category, really the individual patient may have slight differences with their breast cancer versus, the next woman that I see with the same, quote, diagnosis. And so it can be a challenge to have a vaccine that prevents them all. And that's been the challenge. We're starting now, again, by understanding our immune system, we're starting to identify commonalities between the different cancers so that it gives us an ability to find a target to point our immune system at. And that's how we form a vaccine, is how to get the immune system galvanized toward a particular target. And we're finding commonalities between cancers to use as that target, so that a vaccine now can be effective not just against one cancer, but potentially across different cancers. And that makes it much more powerful. So again, we started with the HPV virus vaccine because that was a particular virus, and we knew enough about that virus to start generating it. And by using that technique, we're now starting to really be able to broaden our ability to find additional vaccines that can work.
Anything new on the screening side? I looked at my iPhone. I didn't see the breast screening app yet on my iPhone, but we're probably not that far away. Yeah.
Well, we're not that far. I think certainly finding the guidelines are fairly easy. Again, a lot of these sites that we've talked about already, they will you'll find guidelines in terms of how you should screen and what kind of tests you should get based on your own personal risk factors. There's actually on the National Cancer Institute website, there actually is a tool. It's like a little questionnaire that you can do online. By answering a few basic questions, the program will actually calculate your potential lifetime risk for breast cancer that you can then use as a tool to discuss with your doctor and to verify it, and also discuss what are some potential options for screening or prevention.
And
so
once
those
again,
are very
that's
exciting.
on what website is that on?
The National Cancer Institute.
Okay.
If you go on that website, look them up and go on their website, they have lots of tools that you can use, and there is a particular tool that you can use to actually assess your risk for breast cancer,
So you
as well
just
as
want to
others.
go on that site and then
If
search
you go on the
for
site
the
and
tool,
search for that,
tool
it's,
for breast.
yeah, it's
Interesting.
really great that for patients. If you're worried about your risk and you're not sure, it's a good place to start. And again, I would still recommend that you talk about it with your doctor, to verify everything. But it's a good place to start. And then as far as exciting things coming down the line for screening, yes, there are in the pipelines, we're again not quite ready for prime time, but in the pipelines, there are tests now that are being developed that will look at blood component to see if we can detect breast cancer changes in the blood so that you do not need to have a biopsy anymore. And have to be poked potentially. But even more importantly, be able to diagnose the breast cancer maybe even before it's large enough to show up on mammogram or ultrasound. So this is even going beyond what we're capable of now, which is with mammograms showing very early stages of cancer, but it still has to be a certain size before we can see it on those imaging modalities. So if we can even find them earlier, it would again hopefully allow us to accomplish even better rates of cure for patients. So those are in the pipelines. They're not quite ready for prime time, but they're getting close. And I think in the next 5 years, I think we'll see a drastic change in the way that we can test for a lot of these cancers.
Cool. My iPhone 24
Yes.
is going to have the breast
Exactly.
cancer screening app and all kinds of other.
Yes.
It's, I mean, I grew up with loving Star Trek, and of course,
Oh, sure.
Bones had the little
The
device that just,
tricorder,
yeah,
yes,
that
absolutely.
just did it, and so why not?
Absolutely.
That's
Listen,
on the horizon.
It's actually kind of amazing, a little off the topic, but Star Trek is actually a lot of inspiration for a lot of research scientists, believe it or not. And there's some medical devices that have come about because of sort of what was imagined on Star Trek. So the idea of injecting without a needle, there actually is a device that will allow you to do an injection through the skin that does not involve needles. So
Wow.
certain medications can be injected without being poked. So, I mean, that came straight out of Star Trek. And the inventors of that actually admitted that was their inspiration. They wanted to see if they could make that happen, to actually do that you see on the show. And so it really is quite amazing. And I do think that, maybe not 5 years, but somewhere down the line, we will be seeing something like a tricorder.
Tim, there, iPhone 24. There it is.
Exactly.
We got it.
Exactly.
KHTS Radio here on this Wednesday. Carl Goldman with you. Our City of Hope show with Dr. Chu. Amanda is with us as well. And Amanda, we talked briefly at the beginning of the show about the Home and Garden show that's coming up April 28th and 29th over at Central Park, free of charge, 10 to 5
Come
on
on out.
Saturday,
Yes.
10 to 4 on Sunday with well over 450 plus vendors over there. City of Hope being one of
We'll
those
be one
vendors.
of them as well.
Yeah,
Really
which is
excited.
So what will you be featuring over at the Home and Garden show?
A lot of what we'll be featuring at our booth at the City of Hope will be a lot about doctors. We will have some doctors that will be present that you can meet and greet, get to know them. They're here in the community, living here. We also have a plethora of cancer information available, a lot of it about specific types of cancers, preventative information. As we all know, in sunny Southern California, we're going to need to know a lot about skin cancer prevention coming up, especially during the summer. So a lot of that will be available at our booth.
And the booth really signifies how much you're touching Santa Clarita. We already talked about it, your relationship with
Absolutely.
the hospitals here with Henry Mayo, relationship with the Sheila Vilas Breast Imaging Center at Henry Mayo, and Providence Holy Cross right down right down past the 514 over the hill.
Yes.
But there's a lot more that you're doing here just specifically in Santa Clarita. Why don't you share what some of that is?
Yeah, specifically in Santa Clarita for our specialties, we have gynecologic oncology, medical oncology, urologic oncology, breast surgery and oncology, general urology, which a lot of people don't know of, that we do, and then general surgery as well. We have the connections to the clinical trials. we're a comprehensive care team available locally.
And that's all here in Santa Clarita with your facility here in Santa Clarita over on Valencia Boulevard,
Right across
diagonal
from City
Hall.
Hall. I do tours. Come stop in,
Yeah,
say hi.
absolutely.
That's a thing.
No, I think that's one thing that all of us who work at in this
Absolutely.
area all feel a commitment to. I think almost all of us, if not all of us, physicians live in the area. We're all residents in the Santa Clarita area, and so we feel this is our community as much as it is our workplace. It's also where we live. And even City of Hope as an organization, I think we are dedicated to the idea of bringing the service to the community. That's why we work with the local groups, whether it's radiology, whether it's the hospital, whether it's other physicians. Our goal is to work with everyone locally and to provide as many services as possible at the same quality that you would get even if you go to our main campus, but here at the community level, so that patients have that comfort of home while they're getting their treatment. Because as much as it's great to say that we can offer the best treatments in the world, if you can't get there or have a hard time getting there, it doesn't make it any easier to get the treatment. And you may not be able to do the treatment that you need. So being able to do that, it makes us all here locally, we're very proud of that we're able to do that for the community.
And what's very cool is the majority of your cases, and I think you said well over 90% are done at
Absolutely.
here in Santa Clarita or at Holy Cross right
Yes.
down below, and it's only a few that might have to go to the Duarte campus
Exactly.
where your main headquarters are, but that's also where all the primary research is being done,
Absolutely.
which is exciting because then that gets pumped right back to you.
Yes.
to
Exactly.
handle.
Absolutely.
How does that process work?
Well, so research, and that's part of what we do at the main campus. It's a dedicated effort. It's a concerted effort. It's in conjunction with our clinicians that are working on campus, and so there are clinical trials that are being offered, where some of the stuff that's done in the lab, on the bench or with mice, as we talked earlier, where we take that sort of basic science understanding and we actually apply it to the person, to the patient. And so there's multi levels where that happens, depending on where we are with the product itself that we're using for treatment, and that's happening at all levels on campus. So clinical trials are going on, and that's something that also even in the community we can participate in with the patient that may qualify for one of these trials. They have access to that through our office. So that's another option for patients as well.
Awesome. So they could do a clinical trial that's really being centered at Duarte, but
Yes.
really do the trial here in Santa Clarita
Yes.
without having to leave.
Absolutely.
That's terrific. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and that's really exciting too, to be able to offer that. There are probably, there are definitely more trials, of course, being held on campus, just because that's where the science is. But even patients, if that's what you need, we can set that up. We can make that connection, and a lot of the actual treatment can take place locally, and it just gives patients that flexibility. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that we tailor the treatment to the individual patients as much as possible. That's something that we believe very strongly in, that it isn't about one size fits all and this is the only way to do things. We look at all the possibilities and the options that are available, and we help the patient choose what's best for them. And we're very proud of that ability to do that and being able to offer them that whole level of service.
That's Dr. Chu here on the City of Hope Hour, your hometown station, KHTS. We're going to come back, getting ready to wrap things up, but we've got a whole shelf of new information to reveal, so stick around. We'll be right back.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
Something big is coming to Castaic.
Is it a dinosaur, Bob?
No, Blanche. Is it the 2020 Olympics?
No.
I know. We're finally hosting the World Cup.
No, silly. They're building Castaic High.
Bob, no way.
Way. Go visit CastaicHighProject.com. You'll get all the latest details.
What's that web address again, Bob?
CastaicHighProject.com.
Again?
CastaicHighProject.com.
Bigger than a dinosaur?
That's right. CastaicHighProject.com.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
I can change the world. I'll be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something.
KHTS, your hometown station. It's our special 1 hour with the City of Hope. Dr. Chu in the studio along with Amanda. And Dr. Chu is a specialist on breast cancer, breast oncology, and we're learning more about that. We were talking about the research being done, and we, my wife Jerry and I, along with Chris and Sue Hoffland, started the Michael Hoffland Foundation for Children's Cancer back in 1994.
Wow.
With the first fundraiser, my wife's brainchild, in our backyard. And
That's
that
great.
organization's come a long way, and I know it's partnered a lot with the City of Hope. But we funded a number of clinical trials and research at the City of Hope early on with that. I know, Amanda, you're tied in now
Yeah,
with Hoffland,
absolutely.
too. You
Yeah,
just
we
finished the
actually
walk.
sponsored their walk last week. It was wonderful. Lots of people there supporting such a great cause, too, for pediatric cancers and support for the families locally. It's great.
Yeah, again, a great partnership and a
Absolutely.
tremendous way of using the Hoffland Foundation to not just raise money for the City of Hope for specific grants, but more importantly also to help so many families as a support connection here in Santa Clarita. If you don't know about it, mhf.org is the place to go for information there. And of course, City of Hope, their website, cityofhope.org. But I thought we'd talk a little bit more briefly. We've been talking about breast cancer, learning so much about it. Surgical options. We talked about the places for surgery. The cool thing is you don't have to go to
Yes.
Duarte. Surgeries are being done here by you
Yes.
at Henry Mayo in Santa
Yes.
Clarita and right over the hill at Holy Cross.
Yes.
What are some of those options for surgery?
Well, as we talked earlier, conservation, I think, is a really wonderful place right now for patients because of some of the techniques that we've developed to really help preserve the look and contour of the breast, even after a significant portion of it may be removed. And so there isn't that deformity or distortion that people think of with a lumpectomy that can then keep them from thinking of that as an option. So I would certainly encourage patients or women in general, don't dismiss that as one of your options because we can achieve just as good cure rates, equivalent cure rates, in fact, as a mastectomy with the appropriate treatment. Now, having said that, mastectomies also come a long way. It used to be that it was just one surgery and we just basically removed all of the tissue, and it can be quite, again, deformative and distorting of the chest. These days, there are so many options now for reconstruction. And I work closely with different plastic surgeons in the area in order to offer the patients the best option for them. There's options using implants. There's options using your own body tissue. They have their pluses and minuses, but by and large, we can achieve great cosmetic results with those techniques. So that if a mastectomy is the best option for you as a treatment, it's no longer the end of the story. It's only the beginning. There's different ways now to even do the mastectomy itself. We can preserve better cosmesis with the size and shape of your natural breast so they don't look as artificial, perhaps, as some of the earlier versions of it, especially with implants. The implants themselves have now taken on more natural shape. So again, it gives patients that ability to feel more like themselves again. And that's really what I counsel my patients when they think about their surgical option. It's not about vanity. It's not about, are the breasts necessary? We can all agree that the breasts are not essential for life, but they're very much a part of how we see ourselves, both men and women, how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And it's always my goal, not only do I get rid of the cancer, that's always the number one goal, but it's also how can I help you feel good about yourself afterwards? Because the vast majority of my patients will survive their cancer, and they're going to go on to live a long and productive life. I like to help them feel good about it too. And that's some of the things that we can offer here at the local office, and you don't have to go anywhere else for that.
And Dr. Chu, I know, I suspect the fear factor plays a giant role in keeping people from stepping in and taking that first step. They'd rather hide it under the carpet and make believe it doesn't exist, and so before they do the screening, they may have waited too long, but then when they do see you, that fear factor has to hit too.
Absolutely.
But you've got such a nice, soft demeanor,
Oh, thank you.
compassionate demeanor.
Thank you.
That has to play a role too. So talk about that. How do you deal with that fear factor
Absolutely.
when someone first walks into your office?
Well, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. But I totally agree. It's oftentimes that is the first thing that I see when I walk into a room, is a patient who's just feels like their life is over because of a diagnosis. And the first thing I tell them is it's not over. Doesn't matter what stage you're at. Even stage 4, which is the most advanced stage of breast cancer, or any cancer, where it has spread beyond the primary breast, it's not a death sentence. Breast cancer is not an automatic death sentence. Even stage 4, we have great treatments for it. Cure rates might be lower, but we help women live with their cancer and live a very good quality of life with their cancer and with their treatment. So we have patients living 10, 15, 20 years with stage 4 breast cancer these days because of some of the treatment options we can offer. So it's not a death sentence. We have treatment. It's not hopeless. And then I spend the time with them to go through all of their options with them. And I think that helps to really understand what their options are, what is personally relevant for them. And I always take that into account when we talk about finalizing their treatment. After all the medicine is done and after all the science is done, it always boils down to what can I do to help my patients feel safer and feel more in control of the cancer. And if I can help them make that decision, I don't have a patient who regrets their decision because it's important to feel in control. And I think I think I can help them with that.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating hour. I've learned a lot, and I believe that anyone tuning in, you're going to want to go back to either the podcast at Hometown Station or our YouTube video. Of course, we've been streaming this also going Facebook Live, so you can go look at the Facebook KHTS Radio site or go to hometownstation.com. And then you can see the link for our YouTube video or Google it. You'll find it. But we've had Dr. Chu with City of Hope, Amanda, City of Hope. cityofhope.org is the place to go for more information. And the phone number?
661-799-1999 is our local number. We're right across from City Hall on Valencia Boulevard.
KHTS, your hometown station. Thanks for joining us.